Here's the last thing I want to share with you. Give the gift. We've all gotten it. I got it every day growing up, but I forgot about it until about 10 years ago. A lesson with my son, my oldest son, reminded me of it, and now I've incorporated it back in my life, and it's the most powerful gift you can give. And I'm sure everyone can come up and tell a similar story. So this is my oldest son, Johnny. When he was 6 years old, you know, the one that peed in the pool. He wanted to go out for wrestling, so we send him out, and you know, he's pretty good. He makes the team, and he wins a few more matches, and he loses. Start going to tournaments. We start going to, you know, we're in Cleveland, you know, Columbus, Cincinnati, and he starts winning most of his tournaments. Then his goal was to someday wrestle for the Ohio State Buckeyes, right? Because we're from Cleveland, and that's the big thing. And I said, sure, absolutely, you'll wrestle for the Buckeyes, you know, making them feel good. So by the time he's 10, I can't find anyone in Ohio that can beat him at his age or weight. So I'm feeling pretty good. So someone says, if you think your kid's good, take him to Tulsa, Oklahoma, the best youth wrestling tournament there is. So to satisfy Dad's ego, we got a plane, we fly across the country, and we find 3,000 wrestlers. We're used to 20, 25. His first match, he has a kid by the name of Ryan Brooks. Ryan Brooks has this warm-up suit on. It's his 3-time Colorado State champ, 2-time Tulsa national champ. Get a little nervous here, right? But I just figure he hasn't met Johnny yet. Right before they go out there, Mr. Brooks staring at my kid, I'm staring at his kid. He says, your kid any good? And I said, yeah, my kid's pretty good. I said, how about your kid? He says, my son is the best wrestler in the entire state of Colorado. And think to myself, what kind of idiot says that, right? So, of course, I respond with, oh, yeah, well, my kid's the best wrestler in the entire state of Ohio. Not going to be outdone there. So they go out there, and the referee has to stop the match 5 different times during the match. Why? Because my son Johnny is crying so bad. Up to this point, he may lose once or twice a year, 1-0, 2-1. This day, November 2002, Ryan Brooks beat Johnny 15-0. My therapist helps me say that, 15-0. After the match, true story, my son's bawling in my arms. Mr. Brooks walks by and goes, ha, I guess they don't make them that tough in Ohio. Are you kidding me? He shouldn't have said that. I said, you know what? Then I stop and think to myself, my son just got his ass kicked. I don't need to, so I let it go. I'm much taller than him. So it's double elimination. So about an hour or two later, he has to go back out there. Wrestles again. This time, he gets pinned in about 15 seconds. So we get on a plane, we fly back to Cleveland, and on the way home, I feel like the worst parent that ever lived, right? Why couldn't I leave well enough alone back in Cleveland, back in Ohio, where his record is self-esteem? He never wants to wrestle again, right? So I start giving him I start doing what all you parents would do. I know you're already beating me to what you do. I start lying to my kid. I said, Johnny, I knew you were going to lose. He says, you did? I said, absolutely. Because in life, we face obstacles, and I start making this stuff up. This is what I do for a living. I give him the mother of motivational pep talks, the best thing I've ever read, heard. I give it, and halfway through the best motivational speech of my life, my son interrupts me and says, Dad, do I ever have to go back to Tulsa again? I said, no. I said, you can't. He says, what do you mean? I said, well, you could, but it'd be way too hard. He says, what do you mean? I said, John, you'd have to go back to Ohio, back to Cleveland, and for the next 12 months beat everyone worse you've ever beaten them. He says, I could do that. So that's not it. I said, you got to go to practice every night, whether it's 85 degrees out or you're not feeling well. You got to show up. And I give him the whole showing up spiel. He says, I can do that. So you got to do, if the coach says do 50 takedowns, you got to do 55. If the coach says do 100 push-ups, you got to do 110, because Ryan Brooks is doing 50 and 100, and we got to be willing to do what others aren't, or we'll never close gaps. I said, you got to get all A's and all B's like you always do. And finally, I'm going to give you a workout, push-ups, pull-ups, sit-ups. I'm not going to babysit this. But if you do those 5 things, I guarantee you I'll bring you back to Tulsa next year, and it'll be a different story. He feels better. I feel better. Figure I never got to worry about this again, right? Well, my son takes everything I say literally. He does 500 pull-ups, 500 push-ups. He beats everyone worse he's ever beaten them. I'm traveling. I call up in the morning to speak to my wife. My son answers the phone. Hello. I said, why are you home? He goes, oh, Dad, I've been throwing up all night. I said, okay, feel better. I'll call you up tonight. I'll say goodnight. I call him up that night. My wife answers. I said, where's Johnny? She goes, he's at wrestling practice. I said, why would you let him go to wrestling? She goes, listen, we're going to talk when you get home, mister. Yes. So it comes next November. He says, Dad, we going? I said, going where? He says, to Tulsa. I said, do you want to? He says, yeah. And at that point, I get sick to my stomach. I didn't think I'd have to worry about this. I didn't think he would do those things. He did everything I said. I couldn't get out of it. I had to take him to Tulsa. And I know what's going to happen. Probably the exact same thing that happened a year ago. And I know that's going to crush any credibility I've had, any faith he had in me, any self-esteem he had. I couldn't get out of it. I take him to Tulsa, and he wins his first match. And I am hugging strangers, right? People are like, dude, get off me. I'm off the hook. I could go home. Then he wins his second match. I'm like, oh, that's frosty on the cake. He ends up winning the third, fourth, fifth, and sixth match of the tournament, which places him in the Tulsa finals. Guess who he gets? Ryan Brooks. Right? It was nice while it lasted. Here's the last 10 seconds. That's Johnny on the left. You're going to see Dad jump up and down as he pins Ryan. And there's Dad looking like an idiot. This is Mr. Brooks. I wish I could tell you what I said to him, but I can't. At least not from up here. All right. I don't want you to miss it. After the match, right? I'm feeling so good. I'm hugging my kid. I'm calling people I haven't spoke to in 30 years. They're like, who is this? I'm like, DiJulius. I sat next to you in school. It doesn't matter. My kid's a national champ. So I said to Johnny, how'd you do this? He says, what do you mean? I see, you kidding me? He's a 4-time this, 3-time that. He beat you 15 in Tulsa last year. You're the Tulsa national champ. And then he says it. He says, because you told me I could. He says, because you told me I could. At that point, I was no longer proud. I realized a year earlier I gave the best and the worst motivational speech of my life. The best because it worked. The worst because I didn't believe one word of it. Right? What I said to him was more to make myself feel better than it was I actually thought was possible. And it really bothered me that I invited my kid to greatness on insincere terms. Right? It goes back to peeing in the pool. What I said to him, he took a different way. What I said to him a year ago, and the older we get, the more cynical we become. If any of you would have told me a year earlier, that my son was going to be a national champ, I would have said, oh yeah, in what sport? Because I know it can't be wrestling. But an 11-year-old says, well, my dad says I got to do this, 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 and this. And my dad wouldn't lie to me. And he trusted it. And it paid off. And that really, really bothered me that I did that. And it brought back to where I was and what I went through. And you saw my past. But I always got this message, no matter what happened in my life, teachers would call, principals called, employers would call, maybe the police called once in a while. My mom would always stick up for me, to me and about me, and say these 4 words that we've all heard, don't hear enough, but they're powerful words. I believe in you. He's going to make it. I believe in you. But I believe in you. Those are powerful words. And that brought back to, how many people do I say that to? How often do I say that? Every single one of us can get up here and tell a story of why you are here in this spot in your career, in your life, because someone believed in you. And so ever since I wanted to make that a part of my daily rituals, believe in the people around me. Because believing in people when it's not easy to, right? When you don't live up to someone else's standards or your own. When you're less than a son, father, husband. I've been all that, less than. But you got someone in your corner believing in you, right? You got to remember, I'm the kid that was ADD and LD and requested to repeat every grade, right? I'm the father that told his kid to pee in the pool. I'm the father that flew his kid across the country to get his brains kicked in. My salon almost went out of business within the first 4 weeks. We had no idea what we were doing. My first book, Secret Service, got turned down by over 200 publishers before a publisher finally bought the rights. On the flip side, run a pretty successful salon operation. Both books made the bestseller customer service list. But more importantly than all that, I'm the father of a national champ, which is really, really cool. Thank you. Number 2 is what we affectionately known as Crying Ryan. No, I'm just kidding. That's not nice. That's not hospitable at all. After he won, I said, what are you going to do now? He says, Dad, I'm going to win it again next year. I said, I know you are, because I believe in you. And he did. He won it a few more times. Remember his goal when he was a kid? He now got a full ride to Ohio State, and he wrestles and starts for them, and he's going into his sophomore year. So it goes back to, even the beginning, When I told him as a kid, yeah, you'll wrestle for Ohio State, sir, I didn't necessarily believe in it, and we got to. We got to believe in the people around us. We got to believe in the people that believed in us, the people who, are coming to work for us. This is key. Sometimes you have to believe in the belief others have in you until your belief kicks in.